which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ready, roll call?
Yep.
Mayor Luma?
Here.
Paul? Here. Walty?
Here.
Miller?
Here.
Hudson?
Here.
Weingartner? Here. Nichols?
Here. That was interesting.
The minutes of the previous meeting were read and approved. On the special council meeting, there was some changes. It was stated West Walpock was actually East Walpock. That's all the changes that was made.
I have a question on the regular council meeting. It looks like I just didn't care to vote because I was running the meeting, and I don't think I'm allowed to vote when I was running the meeting. So I don't know if it's appropriate to say that the meeting was called to order by President Pro Tem, so that there's a continuity of why I didn't vote on the bills. Because it says NA like I didn't.
I think that was because you were running it.
Right, exactly.
That
What
was
I'm
like-
saying is at the beginning where it says the meeting was called to order,
Mhm.
could we add in by President Pro Tem? So then it kind of gives an explanation of why I didn't vote on those initial items because the mayor wasn't here yet. And I don't think I'm allowed to vote as President Pro Tem. I don't
I
think.
gotcha.
Yeah, okay. Once he was here, then I was allowed to vote. Thank you.
All right, so approved.
Okay, currently in all funds, we have $1,537,829.19. In all funds, and $198,564.73 in the general fund.
The bills were read. The motion was made by. So moved. Seconded. To pay the bills presented.
Paul?
Yes.
Walty?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
Weingartner? Yes. Nichols?
Yes.
All right. Guest. You're the guest tonight. Hey, you know, you're not on here, you're supposed to be.
Oh, yeah.
Sarah just missed it, so.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. What? We have the Bill and Carolyn Decoration Fund.
Okay.
How much we have? We have $1,125.
Wow.
Where
did that all come from?
Just donations from the Celebration of Life.
Good bill.
For Bill and Mom. Huh? Yeah, we had a Celebration of Life for Mom and Bill.
This is Phil Moder's granddaughter.
Thank
Oh,
you.
yes, I was
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, no, you're okay, you're okay.
Wonderful.
All right. At this time, I got a proclamation to make. Come over here. Yes. Whereas the village of Waynesfield recognizes those individuals who played a vital role in the community, and whereas the village of Waynesfield recognizes that William Bill Motter has faithfully served Waynesfield community as a former employee and village council member for many years. Whereas William Motter has been a lifelong resident, coach, and mentor, and whereas William Motter supported the community as a role as evidenced by his volunteerism in various community events, and whereas the legacy of William Motter will be realized for many future generations to come. And now, therefore, I, Rocky Luma, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the village of Waynesfield, I hereby proclaim this 26th day of June 2023 shall be ever known as Bill William Motter Memorial Day. All right.
committee reports.
The Parks Committee met on June 7th. I would say the bulk of our conversation I will let Chief Motter cover, because it has to do with the community development team. So I'll let him cover that in his report, and then we also did talk about the slide at the park that is in disrepair, and Aaron had reached out for options as far as replacing or repairing it. And then, the Utilities Committee met on June 14th. And I will let Aaron cover most of what we discussed there, unless there's any questions specifically about anything in the minutes. That's it for me.
Had a meeting in the fall, but I apologize, I don't have the minutes of that. I'm sorry I haven't talked about a lot of it, but it was discussed and brought up that in August is when the street's going to be blacktop. Is that the top coat?
The top coat could be as soon as, I talked to the engineer yesterday, one of the two. Depending on, as we get further into the meeting, the change orders that we have in front of us, if council decides to go with that. It could be, it won't be this week. The company that's working is on 30, say around 30. 2 weeks on, week off, 2 weeks on, week off. So there might be at least, hopefully, mid-June, July is when that top coat would be put on. And
So, how did the August come up with?
originally, they thought they were going to be the whole month,
Okay.
and then ODOT changed their schedule.
Any other committees?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Before we go on, is Tom gonna fill in for Bill on these committees?
No, we will probably give it past out of Reed's signing. Okay.
The zoning committee, I think, is next. Zoning committee met June 8th, its regular scheduled meeting. We did have 2 residents come in and request variances, and that's in the document there. You can look at it, and those variances were approved. And then, Aaron, I think you were able to follow through with the building permit and.
Yeah, both of those folks have come in, got the building permits, went through the steps that Sarah has to do. And I know one is currently working on it, and then the other one, I think, just got it into preparation for his work.
So I'm glad to see residents are building and doing good things in the village and improving. That's always a good thing. The Records Committee did meet at its regularly scheduled meeting on June 14th. 2 issues we're continuing to work on the record retention policy. We now have all of the inventories in from all of the department leaders, and so we'll be typing up those records to come up with a records inventory document to present to council. The process that the committee wants to do, though, is type it up, give it back to the leaders, department leaders, let them review it, make sure we've got it correct, and then bring it to council for approval and implementation. So hopefully within the next couple months, maybe August, we'll have it for you folks to look at and vote on and approve. And then I believe it has to be sent to the Ohio Historical Society or maybe the state auditor. I have to investigate that. I apologize. I'm not 100% clear on that. The other thing that the Records Committee brought up, and I'll show the rest of that later when it's on new business, is we discussed last year, and it was tabled because it didn't make into appropriations codification of ordinances, and we'll be asking to move forward with that in the coming year. So that's the Records Committee and the Zoning Committee. Thank you.
Any other committees?
Utilities.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I had it out of order. Everything's going on with it.
police report?
Yeah, for the police report tonight, the Property Maintenance Committee will be receiving 2 new properties here in the very near future. It's not showing on your report right now because those just came about on Friday, so that will make the report upcoming. On May 21st, Waynesfield Goshen held its annual graduation ceremony. Congratulations officially to the class of 2023. Ceremony was delayed briefly after a graduate had a minor medical issue, but we got that resolved and the ceremony went on as planned. The school year officially ended for the kindergarten through 11th grade on May 24th and will resume in August. Sometime, actually skip that next part that is in my report because I'm going to address that at the end. The Waynesfield American Legion's annual Memorial Day Parade was held on May 29th. There were no issues at the parade and everyone seemed to enjoy the day. It was nice seeing a good turnout of people watching the parade. The weather was very nice and the ceremony at Willow Branch Cemetery was good as well. It was nice seeing the kids come out and partake in that as well. We had our annual firearms requalifications on May 25th. Both Officer Humes and I did well. We both qualified with 2 handguns and the department's shotgun. Firearms qualifications are amongst one of the many requirements to be a police officer in Ohio and must be successfully passed every year in order to maintain a law enforcement commission. The Community Development Team, also known as the CDT, met on Wednesday, May 17th, and we discussed the possibility of some long-term projects in our park. The CDT team decided we needed to meet with the village's Parks Committee, which Aaron and I did on June the 7th. During the Parks Committee meeting, Aaron and I shared a vision of the CDT and wanted to see how the Parks Committee felt about that long-term vision. I think our presentation was received with cautious optimism. The Parks Committee wants to see how much each project in the park costs before they determine a priority list of which projects should be done first, second, etc. Aaron and I are working on that now, and we will have those costs to the Parks Committee by their next meeting. There may also be some opportunities for parks monies that the CDT is currently exploring, and I will talk about that at a later date when I have more information to officially share. Since Memorial Day weekend, the call volume for the police department has skyrocketed, as is normal for this time of year. Domestic disputes, civil custody disputes, dogs running at large calls, traffic stops, burning complaints, and other typical warm weather complaints have been steady. Since school is not in session, that's allowed me to change some of my shifts up to work away from just day shift. Many of our calls come in during the late afternoon and early evening time and on Fridays and Saturdays. So because of this, I have focused my attention on those time periods when I'm able to do so. The final item I have for you tonight is included in your packet, and that is the School Resource Officer contract and resolution for the upcoming school year. The contract is identical to the contract that we had this past school year. In fact, the only changes is literally the school year on the resolution from 22 to 23 to the year 23-24. If council chooses to pass this, the school board will be presented the same contract at their regularly scheduled July school board meeting, which is on July the 10th. I've met with the superintendent at length on this. He was very pleased with the way that arrangement worked last year, and they are not receiving any additional funding for the SRO position, but he feels very strongly that it's a position that needs to be filled, so he is in favor of continuing that contract. I have said this before, but I do want to repeat that the positive impact I believe the SRO position has had with both our students and adults has been incredibly transformative. I could spend an hour, you're not going to want me to do that, but I could spend an hour talking about the positive aspects of the school resource officer position, but instead I'll just highlight a few areas. Since the SRO position has been in place, we've seen a much stronger level of collaboration between the police department and the school. Students have been able to get to know and trust me, and I've been able to get to know so many of them, which really helps during crisis moments. And we have had several of those outside of school as well as inside of school. Parents also have a level of availability for a police officer that they might not have previously had access to. Plus, by being in and around the school during operating hours, I can help ensure the safety of the largest group of people in any one setting in the village, really at any given time. There are many other positives I can cite to continue the relationship between the Village of Waynesfield, our police department, and WG Schools. However, in the interest of time, I will simply ask council to consider accepting and passing the renewal agreement for the part-time school resource officer services between the Village of Waynesfield and the Waynesfield Goshen Local School District for the 23-24 school year.
I would say nothing about but on your, contract,
Sure.
2324 at, second page, second line up from the bottom, it says 2223.
That's one I missed.
Yeah,
Wait, I got all of them except for that one. Thank you
And then on
for
the
pointing.
resolution, it's the same thing. Did you
Okay.
catch that one?
I did not, but
Okay.
I will change that.
Okay, just
Yes, you're right.
clerical.
Yep, that's why we have extra eyes looking at it.
You gotta write it for the top.
Yeah, I got you, well,
You gotta write it top.
I know,
that's a typical thing. You
yeah,
get- You start doing something, somebody interrupts you, and you don't
That's
get
it.
to the bottom.
That's
So,
right. Thank you.
exactly
We
what
will
happened.
get that changed
It-
for sure.
And I have one other question,
Yeah.
Nathan. In your report on the call volume, you mentioned burning.
Yeah,
We are having a horrible problem of that on the end of town that I live in.
yeah,
I've had 2 residents stop by my house
yeah.
and say, what can we do? What's the issue?
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, are we issuing warning citations? What are we
So-
doing?
So I've probably spoken with the same two folks
Yes,
in your
probably,
neighborhood, because
since we live in the same
I've had
neighborhood.
that conversation as well. Typically what happens, I tell people all the time, when the burning is happening, call it in. Because letting me know a day, a week, a month later
So at
doesn't
2:30
help.
in the morning, when it wakes me up, you want me to call it in?
I want you to call the sheriff's office,
Okay.
non-emergency number, unless of course it's an active structure fire, then call 911.
Yeah, I get that.
But call the sheriff's office, and then what they'll do is they'll do one of two things. They'll either call the fire chief, or they'll call me, or they may call both of us. And then at that time, it will get addressed either by the fire department or myself. We collaborate very well and work together on those types of calls. Ordinarily, the first offense, we will go down, the fire department will extinguish it if they're burning something other than wood-based products that they're allowed to burn within a fire ring with flames no higher than 3 feet in height. Then, if they're doing all that, then there's really no enforcement action.
Right.
If they are burning trash or animal feces, like some of the reports have been, or anything you can imagine, then the fire department will put it out. They will give them a very stern lecture, as would I if I respond down there, although I won't be putting it out. If the resident has the opportunity to put it out, I'll let them put it out, or we'll call the fire department down and they'll put it out. And that will be their one shot. If they offend again, then they will get citations and the EPA will be contacted. The EPA violation is actually a much higher fine than what we would issue. Fine for the village would be $125. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe the minimum EPA violation starts out at $1,000. So typically when folks are educated on that, they will stop. So the other thing I will mention, and this has nothing to do with fire necessarily, but it's fireworks. I did receive a call earlier today asking about fireworks within the village. Because Ohio does allow for fireworks to take place on certain holidays, and of course the 4th of July is coming up, the question was, could they shoot fireworks off in Waynesfield? The answer is no. In the Ohio Basic Code, it clearly outlines that you cannot light fireworks and set them off inside the corporation limits. Is that going to happen? Yes. I'm just telling you, for the last 20 years, it's happened. Typically, if someone complains about the fireworks being shot off, we'll attempt to locate those and address it. But as you can imagine, we chase fireworks all night long. So I will be putting a social media post out probably tomorrow, reminding people that it is unlawful to shoot off fireworks within the corporation limits, and then we'll wait on the calls to come in on the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, and probably the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. So we will address it accordingly. So if you do get any questions, because it's a legitimate question, if folks go out in the country and shoot off fireworks, then that's fine, as long as those municipalities and those jurisdictions allow it. But under the Ohio Basic Code, we do not permit fireworks inside the corporation.
So because I am concerned about overwhelming a fire department that's already low membership.
Mm-hmm.
If we're calling about a burn, a
Yeah.
garbage burn,
Yeah.
do you go out first and then call the fire department, or are they both? Because I hate to, I don't want to smell garbage, I don't want people burning garbage, but at the same time, I ran on that department,
Sure.
and I know what a 2:30 in the morning call's like, and you gotta go to work the next day.
Yeah, it really depends on the situation.
Okay.
There will be some time that I am not going to be available. So, but the sheriff's office calls me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if they need to reach me for something like that, then certainly, I'll do what we have to do.
Thank you.
Yep.
I think fireworks have started already.
They have. I've heard them. That's why I wanted to mention it while I was thinking about it.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution to approve the agreement for part-time school resource officers to the village of Waynesfield and Waynesfield local school
Should
district.
we wait till new business, Bob?
You gotta do that in new business. Have to have emergency though. Then,
Should we do it during new business?
It can be, it can be done now, or you can wait till new business, but if you do, decide to make the motion, I would ask that you suspend the rules of three readings and declare emergency. That way, I can get this to the school by the time their council, or by the time their board meeting comes up.
okay, let's just do it during new business then.
Thank you.
Anything else for Nate? Okay, village administrator report.
Well, we'll just do it right down the line, and if there's questions arise, feel free to ask. As far as the electric goes, letters were sent out to where road residents / hand delivered, and let them know council's decision stance on. As far as not releasing them, that went very well. Do have an email out to AMP as far as an update for the potential substation upgrade. Have not heard back. It was a really hot topic a year ago, and it just kind of fell back a little bit. So waiting to hear back from that. Those folks have a bunch on their plate as well as everybody else. So I'm assuming that it's not going to happen tomorrow since we haven't been in the loop. So I will stay diligent on that just so we can be prepared for what may or may not come down the road. Water and sewer. I put the resolution violation in here from the EPA for the water side of things. Two reasons. One, we have a CCR report going out with this month's utility bills. Some of the violations that have to be on there is the water tower and the billing, the lack of dollars coming in, what we're not billing for. And with those being on there, we have to add that into the CCR.
Can you tell me what CCR is, please?
Consumer Confidence Report.
Thank you.
Comes out every July 1st. That is basically the water that was consumed a year ago, saying it's safe.
Yes.
It's a little backwards, but that's sometimes how the EPA rolls. That being said, I want it to be crystal clear that the testing that we do, everybody is safe drinking the water that we've been producing. Yes, there's maintenance that needs to be done. That is going to happen with the schedule of this project. The inside and the outside of the tower is going to be painted with the new meters. When we get them, that will take care of that portion of it. I have talked with and have letters with the EPA, letting them know what our progression is. They're happy with that. I just have to keep them up to date quarterly and monthly, depending on which one violation it is. It'll just be longer, and there'll be more stuff in the CCR report. So as you folks are out there, and if you do get questions, now you know why they're out there. In one of the committees, I don't remember which one, probably utilities, we talked about, so we're going to have the water tower painted inside and out, but that's not where maintenance ends. Every 10 years, the outside needs painted. The inside needs every 20 years, just because of the sun fading and what it does, UV rays does to paint. I am very familiar with putting them on contract. I know it was talked about previously that to put them on a maintenance contract, it seemed like an insurance policy. Well, it's not really an insurance policy. It's basically, you're going to get the inside cleaning, the inspection, and outside painting and inside painting, and everything that goes with that within an 8-year to 10-year period. What you're doing with that contract, instead of getting hit for $150,000 of inside and outside painting all at once, you're paying for that over that time frame.
Do we know what the savings would be by doing that? Is there a deal on the contract?
That might be on the contract, but I don't know as much as savings as much as it's palatable in smaller bites.
Yeah, are you sure it's not more if it's smaller bites?
And all the ones that I've been involved with, they have not been bigger bites.
Okay.
If you would, so they prorate it. So if you would go and need all those three things done, if you need it inspected with a diver, and then they inspect the inside, they find out the inside needs cleaned, / painted, and they do the same thing with the outside. If you had to do all three of those things all at once, you're looking at, $150,000 to $300,000, depending on what all needs done. You're taking that $300,000 and spread it over 10 years. Each company's different. Sometimes they front load it, sometimes they load it on the back. But eventually, you're paying for all of those services throughout 10 years. Small municipalities like ourselves, it's easier to take that small bite over 10 years or 8 years than what it is to take it all at once. Unless you have a project like we have now where it's included in two. So, that being said, we talked about it at committee, and we wanted to bring it up in front of council. That way, you guys know that, just painting it now, it's not forgotten about for 10 years. And that's the other thing with the EPA. They wanted to know, okay, you guys got yourself in this position, how are you going to keep yourself in getting that position again? I brought that up to them, and they were satisfied with that. So it's just a matter of looking into it, getting numbers for that.
I mean, I think we're pretty lucky that we were able to put the cost of painting this tower in this grant that we got. Otherwise, I'm not sure how the village would have come up with that much money to get it done, and the EPA would have, they could have shut us down.
Yeah, there's a $25,000 per day fine if it goes unlistened to. Now, originally, those violations were the inside of the tower.
Right.
The last sanitary survey they did, the tower's 20 years old, and it hasn't been painted on the outside. When they put those violations up, they're just making you do your due diligence on the maintenance so that you don't have it's usually X amount per gallon. But if your tower is 250,000 gallons and it costs you $80,000 to paint the outside, instead of going 25, 30 years down the road, now you have pinholes. And it's just that much more maintenance. That's what they're doing by putting those regulations.
Now, with this contract, do they do inspections?
Yes.
Okay.
Inside and
Like
outside.
a monthly inspection?
Nope, and it would meet every year, Tim.
Okay.
EPA requires, I think, every 3 years,
Okay.
that the insides, then they'll do the outside the other 3 years, and then they'll take that information that you get from them, and a little, about 4 or 5 pages of paperwork you send in with that report, and then that satisfies the EPA, or it doesn't satisfy them, depending on what you got back on your report.
When they do inspection inside, how do they do it? They drain it and go in?
The last time it was inspected here, since we only had one tower, they do it.
Okay.
They just,
So we
obviously.
have to boil the water.
No, because, what I was just gonna say is because the chlorine levels stayed where they need to be. We didn't lose pressure. So if you have 2 towers in your town, you can drain the one, and it's a lot cheaper because they can just climb up there and look around. When you have to dive it, it's a lot more expensive for all the reasons that we can think of. So when they would inspect the inside, they would dive it, that's how they done it, and I believe in 18 or 19, and that's when they seen the paint flaking.
And so, I'm sorry, but why is it taking us this long? I just need to be reminded.
I can't answer that, I wasn't.
Okay.
Now, is this something you want passed?
Nope,
Right?
nope, I need to get numbers.
Okay.
I've got some phone calls, found some numbers, people I've worked with before. I want to get at least 2 quotes, and that way, again, we're going to be sitting with a brand new painted tower inside and out. We can go a year or so-ish, and then that gives us plenty of time to go out and get quotes from those companies that do that type of thing. Look at the numbers, chew on them, and see if it works or not.
So they're okay with somebody else doing the cleaning?
Who?
The company that you then would
The
contract?
company you contract with would be the company that dives it, inspects it, and paints it.
Okay.
That's
So I
the service.
misunderstood what you just said about painting it first and then.
Well, and
it's
it's
gonna be
project.
done now. It's gonna be done now, so we don't have.
In the West Walpole project, originally, from the beginning, the inside was going to be done. One of the change orders that we're going to come up to was painting the outside as well. That was one of the violations we had on the last sanitary report, that they wanted the outside painted as well. We have the money to do that, along with the extra water line we put in. All the change orders we've done up to now, plus the inside and outside of the painting, falls within the dollar amount that was approved years ago, because this project's been on the books for some time.
So then, would that be the company then that would do the guarantee, or we'd have to pay it again?
Every 10 years, the outside will have to be painted, and every 20
Talk to
years.
me about the inspection. Is it the company that's going to paint it now going to do the inspection?
No. Most generally not. You know, this is just a contract company that goes around, and when it's warmer, they work in the north, and when it gets cold, they go to the south, and that's all they do is paint tanks, whether it's refineries, water towers, whatever, that's what they do, they paint tanks. We would go to a company that does all of that, and it would be a full service at that point.
Took me a little while, but we got there.
It's all right. Storm sewer and streets, you guys had Tim, you did your report there. Currently, the streets we have that can fall within the scope of the project of West Walpole are Mulberry from the dead end that starts at the west to the widening of Mulberry to the east. Part of that is paved down or milled down to subbase. That's where it was really, really ratty, and the rest of the pavement was good enough to lay over top of. The other,
Oh, I'm sorry, in that meeting, Brian Harden mentioned about being straightened up the
Yep.
ones that you
Yep.
talked about.
I talked to contractors, and they said most definitely, just because they have a 7-foot mill.
Yeah.
And before they would come in to pave that, they'll take their machines in there and squirt things up. Yep. The other one would be Tussing Street, that's milled out to subbase. That would be from Wayne to Maple. That all didn't get milled down to subbase, because again, the road wasn't that bad. So that will be paved all the way from Wayne to Maple. And then the other two that fall within the project as far as full roads is Morning Glory and Sunrise Drive. And then it would be the Park Drive. There is one spot, if you're familiar with the park, in between, right around Diamond 2, up on the hill there, it's really, really etched out. The dollars for this, we can fix that. There by the curb, by our building, by the fuel tanks, it's been bad. That will get fixed. And then in the front of the park where it's widened, we'll go from South Westminster Street inside the park where it flares out as well. Mill that down so that, because there is extensive cracking, map cracking in that area, so that way when you pull into the park, all your load shifts coming off the road, whether it's, we have delivery trucks, semi-trucks, trash trucks, whatever, just high volume traffic going on that road, that saves that portion of it. All of those portions of the streets fall within the budget of West Walpole Street. We can do all of those streets that was just talked about, painting the inside and the outside of the water tower within the budget that was talked about for the West Walpole project. The only thing there is, I need something from council to get the go-ahead to do that. In your packets, I did provide all the change order lists. And in those change order lists gives you the price of each street we just talked about, which would be the top three, basically. And then the ones that have already been done, which was talked about with council and approved, was the water line extension, and then the water tower rehab. Again, that was originally, that was talked about with this project, it was the inside of the tower being painted. We had enough money within the project to do painting the outside, so that's that parentheses dollars. So all of our change orders add up to that 301. With that 301, we're fortunate enough because the bids came in low. There was not major crazy change orders. We didn't find something on the ground that cost a whole lot of money. So we can take the $715,000 from CDBG money. We can take the $500,000 grant money from OPWC, and then there's a $500,000 match, which we had appropriated for from OPWC at 0% for 30. We can do all these projects in this change order and what was originally in the bid and still have about $6,000 left in the project. I think, and this is just my opinion, I think it's a fantastic for the village of Waynesfield, that we can get that much work done within the scope of the project.
Aaron, just for clarification, and we have, at least I've heard continuously, and I know that it's not been correct, is that this was a $1.5 million project, it's actually a 1.7, and the difference was the monies that we were paying to the engineer for their consultative fee.
Yep.
And I think that's important to say out loud as residents are watching, so that they understand that we haven't all of a sudden gone from a 1.5 project to a 1.7 project. 1.5 was for the scope of work with a $250,000 give or take
It's usually a
consultation fee.
percentage for engineer.
Right,
Yeah.
so just so that, because now we're looking at 1.7 and we've been talking 1.5, so that's significant. If people are watching the dollars, which I know there are people out there doing. So in terms of a change order, what you actually need is everything except the water line extension section, because we've already approved that, correct?
Correct.
And the not the inside of the tower, the outside of the tower.
Correct. Talking with the engineer today, it sounded like it would be probably within the month of July that this pavement would get done. Their schedules did change there on US 30, that they're working 2 weeks, then they get a stint off, and then they gotta go back 2 weeks. Originally it possibly could be done this week, but the way the weather is, that's not gonna work either, and it would have pushed us to get things ready. So with that being said, you know, we have time to do work on our end to save the town money. Most of the work on the park drive, except for the milling up front, the milling up front would be done by the construction company. They have a mill for that. Everything else where it's really chinked out and mat cracked, we would use our equipment to pull that out. That saves the town quite a bit of money doing it in-house that way.
I'm glad you mentioned it, because I do have a couple of questions. The alley that basically runs north-south, runs on the north, almost in front of Tim's house, and then dead ends into the park area. Is that going to be asphalt?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And then my other question was the west end, well, it would be the north-south road running through the baseball diamonds from the maintenance building, north-south, down past towards the walking path, you know where I'm at? Is anything going to be done with that?
Yeah, that's, they're by Diamond 2.
Yeah, is that in this?
Yes.
Okay, all right, okay. That, I wasn't catching that, was, thank you. And then my final question, because we talked about it in the streets meeting, was, is the contractor going to give us any kind of discount or pay in because they did some of that damage?
They have, that was
Okay.
included in these prices.
Okay, all right, thank
And
you.
I thought they were more than fair with what they offered. So moving forward, if we can get council's approval, if you guys decide to do those things, I can let the engineer know tomorrow, that put us on the schedule for this work, and then we can move forward with the project when they come back into pay.
I'll make a motion to approve this work to be done by the contractors and the paving and fix of the other parts that we've just discussed. You also want the $3,000 to $5,000 to the cracks also at this time?
Nope, because that's within
That's what that is?
appropriations.
Okay.
Nope, it's not with this.
Okay.
I'll second.
We have a roll call?
Ball. Walsey,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Weingartner.
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
Thank you. I will let the engineer know tomorrow, and then we can be back to whenever they're prepared, back to getting some streets without bumps. The second part of the street and storm, we talked about long-term maintenance. We have a great street analysis that the town paid good money for. I've worked with that company, and I thought it was very, very important that the town know where we stand with the streets and what it will cost to, you know, maintain them. And going down through there, I did pick out a handful of streets that can use your just atypical crack sealing. Going off of the analysis on those streets, it looks between $3,000 and $5,000. We get that done. Before I go and talk to contractors about getting quotes, I just want to make sure the council's on the same page, is that money will come out of the street budget. That money coming out of the street budget is appropriated, and we have plenty of money in there to continue doing and moving forward throughout the year. So we're taking money that is loaned and working on our streets, and we're also taking money that we have saved over the years and putting that towards streets. I think that shows a huge, great effort towards residents that we are full-fledged looking at our streets and know that, you know, there's been lack for obvious reasons, but now's the time that we need to start doing some maintenance to them.
I would make a motion that we, what's the word? That we support the village administrator's expenditure of up to $5,000 to do crack seals and streets and maintenances as outlined in this report.
You got 5,000 covered?
That's what that's in there.
Basically, going off the street analysis, that 5,000 was high, so I'll have him come and look at those streets, and if he's short of that, we can pick one more, and you, and we're good with doing that 5.
And that's in conjunction with the, like, 6,000 that's left over,
No, that would be all by itself.
it would be all by itself.
Talking to Craig on that 6,000 that was left, he didn't feel comfortable putting any more roads or any more money towards that because of overruns, the potential of overruns.
If at the end, when everything's said and done, and there's monies left, are we allowed to go back and extend it, or is it just left on the table?
On the table, and that would be money that we would not pay over the 30 years.
Okay.
So, for instance, 500,000 over 30 years is 16 and change, because we don't, nobody likes that number.
$662.27.
There you go, we'll round up. If there's 6,000 left on the table that we didn't use, it would just be that much less over 30 years.
Paul?
This motion that Lisa just made, and you second?
Oh, okay, yes.
Wolfie?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Clifton?
Yes.
Weingartner?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Thank you. Last thing I have is the gov deals list. Sarah's been working her tail off, learning it, and putting all the information that she has no clue what a de-icer truck is until she went and looked at it. So, the list is here. It's a semi-truck and trailer, it's a tanker truck, de-icer truck, military trailer, and an aircraft generator. Everything but the semi and trailer is at the fence building. We moved it all there, so as people want to come look at it, it's there. They can come look at it whenever they want. The semi, there was not room up there, so the semi is sitting behind our shop, inside the fenced-in area. That would have to be by appointment, and we'll put that on the list for the gov deals. I look forward to seeing where that is and how everything comes in, and we will have reserves on everything.
And you had mentioned earlier, I think several months ago, the reserves would be based on what the scrap would be, or you've got different reserves?
Different reserves.
Okay, good.
Aaron, how did we come by all this equipment?
Well, I'm gonna pass that question to him, because I wasn't here then, we talked about a bunch of that, but he can tell you, so he wants to repeat what I said.
Okay, I'm just curious, I mean, I knew it was here, but I didn't know how we wired it.
So the federal government has a military surplus program that is ran through law enforcement, and at the time, Village Administrator Fred Rowe and Council Member Howard Trott worked as a liaison through the police department. They acquired most of this equipment. They well, I had to approve it. I had to go in and do the request, but then they actually went to Dayton or Columbus to pick up the items. We actually have items beyond that, such as the desk behind you, Sarah's desk, Aaron's desk, the mayor's desk. Those were all military surplus. We've actually got, well, a chair back there, and there's some other chairs like that, military surplus that we got at no cost, and essentially the cost was going down there and getting it, so the time invested in that. And then the vehicles, in fact, all these vehicles, I think, all we had to do was put initially just put a battery, because they took the battery out so it wouldn't leak. We had to put a new battery in, and, you know, through time, there was things acquired that they thought they were going to use that they never did use, so it just sat. Aaron and I, you know, well, I don't want to take credit for it. Aaron decided the village wasn't going to use any of these items anymore. We had to keep them on our books for a year by federal auditing standards. Then after a year, they came off the federal books, and it became property of the village of Waynesfield. So at that point in time, you know, we had the option to continue using it or selling it or what have you. And all these are items that are no longer on the federal inventory. We only have one item left in the village that is on the federal inventory that we are in the process, well, the feds are in the process of getting back. We have expressed to them that we don't want it's a trailer, an ammunition trailer actually that we use for our electric department. However, we've figured out a better way of using the electrical spools that we need. So we've told them we want you to have this back, and in typical federal government fashion, we've been a free storage place for them for the last 2 years. But when it comes audit time again, they'll come in and look at the trailer, and I'll repeat the spiel of, we don't want this, and they said, okay, we'll start the process, and in 2 years, they'll come back and see it again, and we'll play this game. So that's kind of how the program got started. That program is still available. The federal surplus program is available, and Aaron and I have had discussions over looking at that program again and looking at obtaining stuff that we actually could use. But time restraints and things like that, because it is a fairly lengthy process to get through, we just haven't had time to look at that. But the idea originated, excuse me, out of Allen County. The Allen County Sheriff's Office for years. In fact, if you go past the fairgrounds, you can see on the south side of the fairgrounds across 117, they've got an entire fenced-in area of all military surplus.
Farm there.
Yes, and once a year, they actually have a big auction, and they sell items, and it literally replenishes funds into the fairgrounds and the different things within the county general fund. And the person that ran that educated myself and Fred on that process and said, look, you guys can use these items for a year, and then you can actually, you know, use it to generate revenue, that type of thing. But it was a lot more hassle than what it looked at on the surface.
I can imagine.
So after the first year or two of acquiring things, I said, look, you know, I don't have time to mess with this, so, you know, we need to figure out a different plan.
Okay.
So that's the long story.
And there's several pieces that we use weekly.
Oh, yeah.
From forklifts to pickup trucks.
Yeah.
To name this point, we had sat down and talked about, you know, there might be things that we need for only 1 or 2 years worth of use. If we don't have to pay for them, we keep them, and then we can create such a revenue off of them. It's not such a bad idea if the time allows to do those things, and that they fit in those situations.
And we got tool chests that were completely full of tools that had never been used. I mean, it still had the sticker prices on it. That the military, if law enforcement wouldn't have claimed it, they would have thrown it away. I mean, it's unbelievable the potential waste that was there. And as long as, you know, those tool chests, we do most of our vehicular maintenance in-house. So whether it be working on cruisers or working on village trucks, what have you, those tools obviously are used directly for that purpose. So that's kind of the rationale behind it, repurposed so they don't have to throw it away. All the desks you see in here were on the trash pile that literally was going to be discarded, and Fred called me and said, hey, can we get these desks? He said, all you have to do is give me the approval. I'm standing right here on the computer to accept it. And I said, yeah, we need desks, I mean, for sure. So they brought them back, and couldn't believe that they were, I mean, these last forever.
Thanks, Nate.
Yep.
Haven't we also sold some stuff?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, we have had other items.
So we're at it now, we've already sold some stuff.
Okay, that's good.
how long is that gonna be posted?
2 weeks, 14 days. And Sarah, do you have a time frame of when you may or may not want to go?
They go,
Mhm.
yeah, we'll talk about, I need some more information.
And we'll put that out on Bill's website, on PD website, that
Be on Facebook.
Nate, last time, Nathan, you did that, you put a link there, so folks don't have to search all the way through it, just find Bill's Waynesfield, hit that link, go right to it, and then we'll put it in our posting places and where it's at and what we look at.
Anything else, Brian? Okay, mayor's report. The mayor's court report, there's $1,065 was deposited in the general fund for the mayor's court account for the month of May. You notice down here, we got cleanup day. Like we did last year, we need to set up a day. This year, Aaron and I talking, we wanted to set it from 9 to 3.
Is that the, you have the date? Because you usually do it Saturday after Fourth of July.
Is that usually when the garage sales are?
Yeah, well, yeah, the garage sale on the first, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Calendar, okay. Next Saturday, then.
I was thinking either that or the Saturday after, give them a couple of weeks, get everything together.
You want to do July 8th or July 15th?
I was thinking July 15th.
We want to make sure it fits your schedule, Bob. I don't want to leave you out.
You said from 9 AM to 3
Yeah,
PM.
like 9 AM to 3.
9 to 3, Mayor.
Yes.
And since it was, I mean, I went down for a little while last year, and I know it was kind of, Aaron, can you do a schedule and council members can sign up? So it's not just you and the village guys?
Yeah, I was there.
I know you were. I went down, didn't even know I was supposed to be there. I failed.
Jess was there.
Yeah, Jess was there, but I just think
I
it
was
would be
there,
nice if there was a time frame so we all don't show up at the same time.
I agree, and I told Rodney, you know, the reason we put those time frames on there is for the folks that need heavy lifting, that can't do heavy lifting. You know, not that I expect council members to do, but you know, last year Keith and I were there for the whole day, and, you know, honestly, you never know what year to year is gonna be, but he could have been there in the morning, I could have been there afternoon, vice versa. Both of us didn't need to be there, you know, that time we were both on overtime, so it only makes sense that, you know, if we had that list for council members to sign up and look at when there's one or two other people there, you know, he can be at one shift, I can be at the other shift, and, you know, go from there. That way we got the mini excavator down there, if things do get full, we can smash it down. Folks, when we got there, had already put things in, so there's folks there that are gonna put things in, don't need help. So to shorten that time up only made sense, and there's gonna be things that shouldn't go in there that we're gonna have to pull out.
I noticed
That's
last
just
year,
it.
the next day, it was batteries and tires.
Batteries and tires, yep, and we just have to get rid of that in the proper ways.
Do we need a motion to do that, Mayor, or do you just say that's what it is?
I think we can just say it's what we're going to do.
Say it is, put it on the posting places?
Yep.
9 to 3, what day again? 15th?
15th.
And then you want to put a schedule up here for us to come up?
Yeah, I'll have something wrote up, and then the next couple of weeks, as
Okay.
council members come and go, or give me a call, give Bean and Sarah a call, and just say, hey, who's on the schedule, when it works for you, and if everybody says the morning shift works, then we'll make it work on the afternoon shift.
All right. Old business. Need a resolution to transfer money from mayor's court back into the general fund.
I'll make a motion to transfer the $8,000 out of the mayor's court fund back into the general fund. Resolution, I'm sorry, Sarah, would that be resolution 23 something dash 1? 23-6-1?
Sorry.
That's all right.
Ball?
Yes.
Walpe?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
Weingartner?
Yes.
Nichols?
I think we have to declare an emergency first, and
Sorry.
I'm sorry, that's my fault. Do we need to declare an emergency first?
Yes.
Okay. All right, make a resolution, or make a motion, pass resolution 23-6-1, resolution transferring funds from Mayor's Court back into general fund and a declared emergency. Declared emergency.
That emergency.
There you go. Sorry, folks.
Ball,
Yes.
Walke,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Weingartner.
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes. Now I make a motion to pass resolution 23-6-1. Resolution to transfer funds from Mayor's Court back into the general fund in a certain amount of $8,000.
And I'll-
Ball,
Yes.
Walke,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Weingartner.
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
All right, we have third reading, the interconnection agreement between the Village of Waynesfield, Always County, Ohio, and the Consumer Project owner.
I'd like to table that this meeting. There are some things brought up in Utilities Committee of how far, what limits we want to put on there, as far as the businesses and residents, so that we want to protect the community, that we don't have a big influx 20 years from now. So I do have some feelers out to get that information. I'll have that next meeting. Yeah. It's the interconnection agreement. Yep. So if it is fine by council, I'd rather just table that this month, and then I can have more information for the third reading for next month.
And the last
You
thing,
don't have to do anything, it's just table if we don't. Okay.
well, the last thing they have for old business is Mayor's Court deposits, just a discussion.
Yeah, and I'm glad Diane's here, maybe she can give me a little more clarification. I typed up a letter, put it in the packet, based on the email that Diane sent and her descriptions of what she's doing. As I said in the last meeting, I know that the clerk is doing what she's supposed to be doing. She does things by the steps. What I was able to find out is exactly what Nathan said in our meeting. Dina said this, that if, for example, if someone comes in on Friday, the Mayor's Court clerk's been here Thursday night, they come in on Friday, they pay cash. Dina accepts that, she notifies the clerk, and the money goes in the vault. How long the money stays in the vault, I think, is what the contention is that it's not any process or procedure that's happening inside what the mayor's clerk is doing. However, it is what's happening when money or cash is coming in, when people walk into the office and give the money to Dina, and then Dina puts it in the vault. So I don't know what happens after that, Diane.
Oh, there's more to it. Thanks for the opportunity to be here tonight, everyone. I appreciate that. I did receive Ms. Nichols' summary that does not quite cover what was read, and I will address those as we roll. I did go, just so you all know as well, that the management report is not in the official state auditor's report. That is typically not a public record unless requested from the auditor of state's office. What appears in, and I see, Lisa, I've got that right here from the auditor's website. It may have been ill-advised that that be done and not discussed in an audit committee meeting, an audit committee set up by the municipality to discuss findings in the auditor's management letter. What they find labeled as immaterial and insignificant issues. And they're just suggestions, recommendations, and as Solicitor Jeff Williams stated multiple times, for the folks listening at home, there was nothing significant in the state audit findings. Okay? Now, these notations that were made, I did send an email from the last meeting so that everyone here at council would be able to be relieved. The way it was presented in the council meeting, which is easily visible online in perpetuity, is that there was a serious delay of deposits at 45% and 55%. being made by the mayor's court clerk. Unfortunately, I wish that Ms. Nichols, and certainly Ms. Ball, being elected
It was
as,
asked,
I'm sorry, I'm speaking right now, thank you. Thank you very much for your
You're
professional.
speaking at the
You're
behest of
raising
the council.
Yes, I am speaking to everyone, you bet. These two different figures are related to credit card payments. I cannot control, and in my email to you, you'll see that I explained that Russell's Point, as well as this municipality in Waynesfield, we use All-Pay, GovPay Net. I cannot control the type of payment, whether it be a prepaid card, a debit card, or a credit card, the ACH transfer sweeps that are associated with those payments. I actually went through the actual audit period of 2020 and 2021 when I first started working with Mayor Rodney Luma. And I looked at everything month by month, the number of deposits that were cash, the number of deposits that were checks, and what was made by credit card. And the percentages match up exactly with what the auditor listed. The auditor never met with me at any time during the audit period and requested that all of the mayor's court records be boxed up so that she could work on them from her home, which I refused to allow, without a signature authorization sheet. And no one in this office had any knowledge that the state had even reviewed the mayor's court records. And in that period, just to give you an idea, in 2020, the total percentage of all payments, there were 104 payments received in the mayor's court, 54% were credit card, okay? And checks, 34%, cash, 13%. In the year of 2021, there were 90 payments into mayor's court. 76% were paid by credit card. 16% were checks, and 7 out of 90, 8% were made in cash. And if I might back up for a moment here, in clarification for those watching at home, that $8,000 was an appropriations transfer, not a cash fund transfer into the Waynesfield Mayor's Court account. So that was not, indeed, money that was in the account. The only authorized signer for Mayor's Court is Mayor Rodney Luma. There is no withdrawal possibilities, only by a signed check that is done by the mayor after reviewing all documents, including the spreadsheet, many spreadsheets dealing directly with the exact payments in conjunction with the police department. I've been doing this position for over 26, going into 27 years, and I am actually referred to from the state of Ohio to assist mayor's courts. I believe that's in part why Mayor Robin Reams from Russell's Point and I visited this council back in August or October of 2013 to offer our assistance to restart the mayor's court. Now, it would have been nice had the actual mayor's court clerk of court, been consulted with any questions by anyone on this council absent having an actual audit committee to review the management letter. Unfortunately, that did not happen. And in fact, at a recent meeting, and I'd like to state that since I've been involved with the Village of Waynesfield, every staff member and elected official have been polite, professional, in every way, shape, or form, until recently involving Ms. Nichols and Ms. Ball. And I'd like to address that because this addressed the accuracy of my work as a public servant. In addition, Mayor Luma is the highest elected official in this organization. He is the one that enters into contracts in conjunction with the fiscal officer and at the guidance of the village solicitor. And he made a very clear directive that if anyone has questions, to please go to him or to Administrator Aaron, rather than going back channels and run that to, one, avoid disturbances in the day-to-day operations, and two, running up additional legal bills to the village which can be ascertained. And this statement, thank you for preparing it, Lisa, because you do bring work experience and an opportunity and a drive to want to continue to help the village grow. However, this was in direct defiance of the directive to council by the mayor, disrespectful, and also to Administrator Bender, and certainly to myself. Now, if you'd like, I'm more than happy to go into the instances, my first dealings with you, and the subsequent ones. I'd be happy to do it for those viewing at home. And I have a published landline number, and I'm available 24/7 to answer any questions, okay? So if anyone would like to have those, I'm happy to discuss it. But in the future, do not, please, anyone here, approach a utility clerk to ask about the status of payments. I understand why that might be done, but there's a common courtesy in you having been. Now, I was told that you were a dean.
That's incorrect.
That is incorrect. You were not.
I've never said that.
Mr. Motter, the late Bill Motter, told me that.
Bill, I was a chair of a program.
Yes.
And that is all I've ever said. I can't say what Bill Motter said. I can't tell you what Bill said.
I can, because he said it to me.
I can't.
And I know, you may not be aware of that, but I grew up.
Well, one
And
more
was
time,
paid.
that's not even acceptable in court because it's hearsay.
Oh, I'm not a lawyer, perhaps you are.
No, I'm
All right,
not.
I'm going to call a question, and I'm going to say we need to move forward.
Yeah.
Can I have a motion as such?
I want to know if Rodney said something.
We're gonna take a break right now.
Rodney, did you say something in that meeting? All I did was ask a simple question. I have no idea why you are so offended.
And my comment was purely procedural, but I'm not even going to address this.
I think
will
we
not
proceed
be
with the
attacked
meeting,
on a
Mayor.
personal level. This is a political agenda. This is a political forum. You got personal issues with me, I don't even know you. And quite frankly, I can't say what Bill Motter said because he's passed away and dead and gone.
That's right, and there are also witnesses to what he told me.
So,
I can't say what he
I'm
said.
here to answer these questions.
I call question.
Okay, so going back, I asked in the
I
future.
vote we move on to the next
Yeah,
item in the
I
agenda.
think we need to end it.
I still don't even know what the issue is.
It sounds, it's personal, and it don't have anything to do with the building.
It does, it has everything to do with payments. And it's unfortunate,
Yeah.
Mr. Wolke, that you
Yes,
feel
your
that
tone-
way.
just wanted
your tone
to
is
know.
personal. It's not about, you keep
You're
saying,
told it's personal?
no, you're
You're
making
making it
personal.
personal.
This has to do with this directive that was listed here by Ms. Nichols that says, this is my results and hypothesis. This does not address the credit card issues and the percentages as noted in the management letter. It does not address the,
You should have read the audit, and you should have
I
sat
read
in
it.
our meeting, and you should have clarified it.
She has a right to defend herself.
We
I
didn't
didn't
do
attack
anything.
I did not attack her.
Yes.
I said there was a procedural issue that needed to be addressed. I did not attack her.
We're going over
And
the
she has
audit.
taken it personally, and I'm done.
well, you can be done. That's totally your option. You've been appointed in this position. You made the statement that there is a serious concern.
I
and
never
you brought
said
it.
serious. I said.
It's all on tape that we need to address this.
So
And
what
you
about-
also
can we
indicated,
move on?
you also indicated that the cash, you needed to get that cash out of it was not cash. That was an appropriations transfer that I would have nothing to do with. So the actual cash, just so you know, that Cash has never been held under the $1,000 ordinance for cash to be held here by deposit. I personally take the checks and the cash myself when I pass Osgood State Bank. And I take those in the evening under camera to the drop box.
Nobody was questioning your job. We were
You
addressing
asked
the
the
audit
Chief
and
of Police, is she bonded?
And
I
she
did
has
not
a right to
ask that
Yes, you
question.
did.
She told me she was bonded. I didn't even ask.
You did. It's on camera.
It doesn't matter.
It does matter. When you make a statement like that, you would ask, normally, it is within your purview, but you would ask,
I
is the
asked
position
in my
bonded?
ignorance. Can that
So,
not be
so thank you for
explained?
admitting.
Yeah,
that you
there we
did that.
go. I'm asking
So,
questions because
I cannot
I do
guarantee.
not know.
Yes. So you
So
did
what
ask.
is your problem?
So that is when you make a public statement about a person's
We were
performance.
not questioning you.
You said my name. She
I did not say your name.
Yes, you said, is she bonded? When Lisa said, so here's the
Lisa
point.
told me she was
We go
bonded.
back to
But
what is
you need to
necessary
quit.
Please.
on these
Let's
percentages.
just move on.
Are there any other questions about how this is going to go? And if anyone would like to know exactly how I have been treated in meetings and what has caused, and my due diligence, I cannot in good conscience allow when I am sitting here working for information to be given that is incorrect, that could lead this municipality to future litigation. And I will speak up when I see it happening. And I sincerely hope that everyone here is as kind and professional as former staff and elected officials have been, to make this a place where people want to work and we do not have the turnover. Any other questions about the accuracy of Mayor's Court, the percentage of deposits, and that it cannot be controlled? There is no policy that can be written that will ensure that deposits are made within 3 days. That cannot happen with a credit card, third-party carrier. Cannot happen. If you'd like to cease and desist offering credit card payments to people for Mayor's Court, you are looking about significant percentages that are difficult for people and families to pay their court fines and fees. Thank you, Mayor Luma.
All right, move on, any other old business?
Yeah, Aaron, what's the status of where we're at with our inventory? Have we done anything with inventory?
No, I haven't.
Oh,
No.
thank you.
I was kind of waiting until we slowed down a little bit more towards winter cycle.
Any other old business? Okay, let's move on to the business. Need a resolution designating posting location. Get that in there, right?
What does that mean?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 23-6-2. You use that? Okay, yeah. I'll make a motion to suspend rule of three readings to adopt resolution 23-6-2, resolution designating posting location of public notices.
Second.
Ball?
Yes.
Walke?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
Weingartner?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Now I'll make a motion adopting resolution 23-6-2, resolution designating posting locations of public notices.
Second.
Ball?
Yes.
Walke?
Yeah.
Miller?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
Weingartner?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
And where will this five places be?
It's in the resolution. It's in the resolution.
It's on your paper.
It's in the resolution. So the
Oh, I see. Oh.
Facebook, I don't know, I might want to read them out loud so people know. Facebook, village website, what else?
Post office.
Post office, White Memorial
Library.
Library, and Waynesfield Municipal Building.
Yep.
Here.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules for readings and adopt resolution 23-6-3 to approve the agreement for part-time school resource officer services between the village of Waynesfield and Goshen Local School District for the 2023-2024 school year and declare an emergency.
Second.
Sorry. Paul?
Yes.
Walke?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
Weingartner?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 23-6-2, a resolution to approve the agreement for part-time school resource officer services between the village of Waynesfield and Waynesfield Goshen Local School District for the 2023-2024 school year and declare.
Also.
Paul?
Yes.
Walke?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
Weingartner?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Thank you.
That was 23-6-3.
Yeah. Mhm.
Now you're legal.
Mayor, do you want to go to convocation and then go into executive session as a final?
That's fine.
Okay. I gave you guys a breakdown, from the Records Committee. Records Committee, as I indicated in our, committee report, wanted to bring codification of villages ordinances back up to the council. So based on what we would have done, the initial cost, would be $16,200. We would spread that out over 2 years so that appropriations would be, for FYI 2024 would be $7,500. And then in FYI 2025, it would be $8,700. And the reason that the FYI 25 is more is we would be paying a $1,200 initial fee to put those ordinances out on the web. And then the ongoing cost would be approximately $3,500. That $3,500 would be broken down into a $495 charge annual fee for web-based, and then the $3,000, I just rounded it up to 35. The $3,000 would be an approximate cost for us to update the codifications to include any ordinances that we would enact during that fiscal year. And then additionally, if the state of Ohio has changes, those ordinances will also be included and we would be charged accordingly. So when I talked to Russell's Point last year, they said that typically $2,000, $3,000 was their cost, but they've had years where it's been up to $6,000. And I think, Chief, you can probably counter more. I guess it was some changes with drunk driving laws or some kind of driving legislation. It was a huge change about 3 years ago. And so that year was more than the $3,000 because our code had to be updated to match the Ohio code. So they're moving forward, 3,000 is an approximation and would be what we would probably appropriate, but it may be higher than that. So what our committee is asking is that Tom, I think when we talked, I kind of explained codification. Do you have any questions about it or what that process is, or since you're new?
No, you brought some, material down to me the other day and kind of went over some of the things, get me up to speed, so I'm okay with that.
You okay with that?
Okay.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
So what we as a committee would like to be able to do is get some kind of commitment on the part of the council that you want to move forward with codification in next year's appropriation budget. That will allow the committee then to begin creating and copying all the ordinances into PDFs. Because in order for us to send the information to the publishing company, American Legal, they would like it to be in PDF form. So Bob, Deb, and I can come down and spend a few hours copying the ordinances and getting them ready to send in January so we can begin the process. So that's why I'm bringing it forward to you at this time. We're bringing it forward to you at this time so that you can begin to think about it, and certainly, we don't have to act at tonight's meeting. We can act next month, but it certainly will give the committee, some direction and give us, the ability to start planning ahead for that. Do you have any questions, you guys, that we can answer?
When you said we'd make them in PDF, that means it needs to be on computer, right?
Right, we would, I have to check with Sarah. I think this copier will copy into a PDF file, but I'm not sure.
It's scanned.
It will scan into a PDF, and, yeah, I think it will. We have this same type of
So is
copier.
that like docs then?
Yeah, it's just a document that it would digitize it so that we could send it digitally. If we can't do it here, then that's something we'll have to address. I personally have not checked this machine. It's similar to what we had. I don't know if it will.
When you scan, if you scan, each department has a folder on that device. So if you scan it to the fiscal officer, it will scan to her in a PDF form.
That's what I thought.
Then all she literally has to do is attach it to an email and send it.
That's what we had at the college, and that's what it did. So we would have to come up, take the books and copy them, and just scan them in, or I think, I don't know, we'd have to have somebody set up a folder for us to do that, and then we could just scan it direct. But, last year, I think we talked about going back 20 years and scanning in 20 years doing it, so I guess what we would like is some direction from council. Do you want us to move forward? Do you want us, you don't think, just something you want to do? What do you want us to do?
As far as basically the appropriations for these dollars, just so I'm aware, so I can look at this and maybe be here next
Sure.
meeting. The 7,500, 8,700, 3,500, that would be that would be 3,500 on top of that for your year.
No, it would be FYI 24, we would be looking at 7,500. FYI 25, we would be looking at 8,700. And then FYI 26 forward, you would have to appropriate the 3,500.
So 26 is when they would say it would be done.
It should be done by,
And then
right.
everything added to it, so after 25, it would just be the 3,500.
Exactly.
So is that 35 included in the first few years then too?
It doesn't, that is a renewal, that's a $495 web-based access fee, and then $3,000 to be appropriated, and we would be charged per ordinance that we would send them. But how many ordinances do we do in a year? We don't do that many. I think it's like 19 and 25, so $30, $40, $44 an ordinance, I think, for them to do everything, which is publish it, put it in an organizational list, link it, and put it out on the web. So we would have to have, I don't know, what is that, 100 ordinances in a year to reach the 3,000. So that's plenty of money. It's just setting aside enough money to do the ordinances as we move along. The $1,600 would include 5 binders of actual printed code that would, Nathan would probably want one. I would think he would want one for the
Solicitor would have to have one.
Solicitor would have to have one. We want one in the building here.
Right.
I don't know. And that would all be web-based similar. The other issue that would be a savings is that if we do this, starting in 24, you wouldn't have to pay for your OBC access.
Right.
That charge, I think that's like $400 or something. That charge would go away, and we would save that money in terms of, so your access for OBC would pretty much cover the web-based access for our code, if that makes sense. Okay. So if we could investigate that and maybe come back to that at the end of next month's meeting. In the meantime, we can maybe start doing some things too.
That means we need to actually.
Yeah, we need to know what you want us to do. What your thoughts are.
I think we need to move forward with it. I mean, we discussed it before, and I always thought it sounded like a good idea. It just wasn't appropriated for. I think this is something that we need to do.
What do you guys think? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Any opinions, Mr. Hudson?
I'm all about accessibility, so I think it's great.
And then move forward. Thank you.
All right, one other thing. I'm gonna pass out these sheets, take one and pass it down. It's new committees. Since Tom took over,
So I want to ask you, because I was on buildings before, and is the top name the chair?
Yeah.
Okay, so what would you like that to be? What do you see that as doing?
making sure everybody works together to get betterment of the village. Or,
I don't understand.
I think are you asking them what the committee's supposed to be or
Yeah,
what the chair's
building and
supposed to be?
property maintenance, what do you see us meeting and doing? And again, I'm asking out of ignorance.
I'm gonna let Nathan answer that.
Okay, so the property maintenance committee, I believe you will have a binder that I prepared for the property maintenance committee, and if you don't have
We
it,
have that you gave.
that I gave you, yes.
Okay.
So the property maintenance committee, typically with that, when we receive a complaint about a property within the village, then that goes to the property maintenance committee. So, I have
haven't
to.
known any of that to be happening lately.
Well, in the past, when Councilman Motter was here, he took it and then, he and Tim would work together, or, you know, however they worked it out. Tim can speak to that a little bit, but the property maintenance committee operates with at least two of the three people. When a complaint comes in, they go and look at the property that's in question and determine if, in fact, there are violations, and you have the book that talks about the violations. If you confirm that there's violations, then the first idea is to talk with the property owner and try to address the issues. Correct, the property maintenance committee would do that. Now, if that doesn't work and we need to begin enforcement action, there's actually paperwork. And if we need to go back over, because I think now Lisa's on the property maintenance committee, so if we want to have a meeting, I can go back over what the responsibilities are. We can go through that binder to make sure everybody's on the same page. And quite frankly, we can discuss the new properties that have since come in. I think it would be good to have that meeting to answer any questions that you have regarding what the responsibility of the property maintenance committee is. The idea is to provide a buffer between the public and getting a criminal violation for non-compliance for a property issue.
So it has nothing to do with village property.
Well, no, the property maintenance committee side has to do with the structures that private citizens own. Now, the building side of that would include any buildings that the village owns. So whether it be this building, whether it be the maintenance garage, the Pence building, that type of thing, that's the building side of the committee that you guys would talk about. So if
Would that be something Aaron would bring up, or?
you would work with the administrator on the building side, but from the property maintenance side, that's on the police side. So it's kind of a dual role within that committee.
Nathan, in terms of this committee and the meetings for this committee, do you see this as something you would be more likely to call meetings for as opposed to the actual chair?
So in the past, we typically haven't had meetings, but we have had hearings where a resident wanted to state their case as to why they didn't need to clean up their property or didn't need to get rid of their junk vehicles, that type of thing. And when they requested a hearing, then it's held similar to a court hearing in the sense that I would represent the village. I mean, it's not a court hearing. Let me make that clear, because we're not attorneys and things like that, but it's set up that way so they have kind of a due process. So if it does get to the point where we criminally charge them, then we've got documentation and it's recorded. So when we do get into court, we can show the court that we've taken the steps necessary to address those property issues. But we have had one of those hearings, and I anticipate more potentially in the future. And as that process goes along, we can explain it in a meeting type setting, and that way everyone is on the same page. I don't want to throw too much at you at one time because it can get confusing when it comes to property maintenance issues.
So you don't want a monthly meeting, you want a call meeting?
Right, it wouldn't necessarily need to be a monthly meeting. It's basically complaint-based driven. So when we receive a complaint, I give the property maintenance committee copies of the complaint, then you go and address it. Now, initially, I will ask, and I can call a meeting with the three of you guys, so we can go over how that process works, just so there's clarification, so everybody's on the same page.
Thank you.
No problem.
It does bring up, Aaron, one of the things with the building committee, and I know you and I had talked about it, you were working on it, but I wanted to let council know. The records committee has expressed several times concerns about the mold and the condition of the archived documents down in the Pence building. So we had talked with Aaron about, and Aaron suggested that potentially what we need to do in that building is put in a humidifier, and he was going to get estimates on doing that and to see what we could do to move forward. From the zoning committee, I went ahead and typed the document myself, so we had appropriated $500 for the professional typing of that. So there is that $500 sitting there that potentially could be used to purchase a dehumidifier to protect those records that we have in archive. So that's something that we'll need to move forward with at a later date.
Any other new business?
Just a little conversation about, me and the birthday party for the village. Just today, I got an idea that, Brett Pebble? No, Pebble
Right.
Is it Ron?
is a historian, and possibly he could do something that we could, have like, a tape that just continually rolls at the library, and, it coincided, I guess, with the, festival, the, farmers market. The Lions Club is having a birthday party, so that was my solution, and then Chris added some more things to it. But they are celebrating, and Mary Matthews is who I talked to, and she said we could put a booth up if you wanted to. We could have like thing for the Christmas donation, or let people know about the Christmas donation, and we could have a basket that people could, they even do the basket. I don't know if you guys want to man a booth there.
But Peggy didn't contact me. Peggy
She
Walton.
had me in contact with another history person.
Right. Peggy also has she came and talked to me today. She got a hold of Marilyn Shaw, who is a historian for the county, I think. And Marilyn.
For Indianapolis.
Yeah, for Indianapolis. Marilyn had the newspaper articles that has a bunch of history in it, and I know Peggy's going to have copies of that made, and she got some donations for banners to go on all of the benches with some ribbon and stuff. She was going to do that, and I think a banner to go along their fence, Tim Walty and Peggy's fence there on the square that has that logo that's out front. That same logo, they were going to have that put up
Birthday party.
with streamers and stuff to coincide with the market. So there's some other things that private citizens are doing as well.
Okay. Yeah, well, Peggy and she's one kick my butt, maybe she get back into it.
She's got
But I also thought maybe if we could have it, make up a parade to go to this, just from here to there. So that's something I thought I could ask, like the band, the cheerleaders from the school, and if you guys, like veterans want to walk, or
pretty quick. Was it next week?
No, this is,
September.
September.
Oh, it's September, okay.
Yeah, that's why I went.
Okay, so.
That same day as the Lions thing?
Is this the Lions Club Festival that
Yes,
they're
They would
making their,
include us.
so this is their normal festival that they want to celebrate the anniversary of Village? Okay,
And what Peggy's doing, I think it's actually on the day.
July 6th.
Yeah, it's
So what is the exact,
July 6th.
is she having a person come and
She's just
talk?
gonna put, no, I think she's just gonna put out banners and stuff. I don't know, Tim, do you know for
Yeah,
sure?
just putting up those signs that was made up,
Okay.
175 years, birthday. I think that's all I'm aware of.
Yeah.
But
So
maybe
it's two
that
different things.
couple person could either come and talk, or I need you guys to kind of come up with some ideas, because my whole thought was doing it myself, and I'm so glad they're doing it, is how do you get people to come? How do you know they're gonna come? So any ideas we've got till summer.
I'll just mention, I know you said something about a parade. The annual homecoming parade will be Friday, September 28th, so that's only 2 weeks, roughly 2 weeks after the festival. So not sure you want to do two parades that closely together, just to throw that out there.
Everybody down there,
Yeah, no, I'm
Basically what Ron Pepper's he's wanting some pictures of old businesses that used to be in town, because he wanted to know if I had any pictures when I had the sporting goods store here in town.
You know,
Some other
Deb
stuff.
Tussin might have a bunch of stuff.
See, that would be
That's what I told
to
him,
have
get
a booth
Deb Tussin,
access
yeah.
with the pictures and a lot of
Hmm.
history that people could come and visit, and then
Yeah.
add the
That's what I
basket
told him, check
for
it, Deb Tussin.
raffling and, but it would have to be manned. It starts at
What was the date?
11, but we could start it like at, I don't know,
What was the date again, Deb?
past that, yeah.
September
Just tell me, September
10th.
9th, September 9th.
See the date, huh?
Oh.
Yeah, there it is, okay.
I know there's a Facebook page out there, I think that puts an awful lot of old pictures. I know there's one of my aunt and her sister, actually had a restaurant here in town years and years
Well,
and years ago.
Somebody's got
Nobody
on
doesn't even exist
on
anymore.
Facebook, Household Hardware.
Yeah,
It's on Facebook right
there's
now.
a lot of that stuff that's out
He
there.
just passed away. Had a ton of history pictures.
Larry Heard it.
Larry Heard it,
Larry
yeah.
Heard it.
Alice
I don't-
Carter, I think, purchased a lot of those. I think she
Dallas
had-
have them? Okay.
I'm sure Deb Tussin had a lot too.
Yeah, Deb probably. Alice, okay.
So these are people I need to talk to? Should I
Yeah.
talk to these people?
Well,
No, I haven't talked to Deb, I don't know whether Ron has or not.
Alice, yeah.
You can keep that down. I have.
I did think of something, I mean, the donation of the money, I know last year the Christmas fund, the building to match up to 2,000, that's still in place, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just want to make sure. We'll have to
Yeah,
get in the wallet.
we passed out last year, Tim.
Yep, I thought we did. Okay, is that everything? I move to go into executive session to discuss litigation.
Second.
Sorry, before you call that vote, who are you inviting into the executive session?
Council and the mayor.
And the attorney.
And the attorney?
Yes, that's most important.
And it's to discuss, I would ask you to put in your motion, this is to discuss pending litigation.
Pending litigation. I move to go in executive session to discuss pending litigation.
I'll second.
Will I pause or take the sound off of it?
We're gonna sit here. I think we stay here. Yeah.
he violated ethics laws, and that's